Again, just giving this certain encapsulating which we learned in the very previous class. So here the Alter Rebbe continues. How much more so one would accept with love and determination and desire in order to cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu eternally. What does it mean when a person will truly be aligned with his obligation, his mandate, his commitment, may it be in the leises and the negative, to stay away from anything that Hashem says do not do, and be careful and scrupulous in everything that Hashem says to do, then obviously, just like when a person is committed to be 100% in line with Hashem Echad, when he's placed in the face of the challenge of idolatry, when he's ready to give up his life, he knows at those moments when he's ready to give up his life, he's truly aligned with Hashem Echad. Hashem Echad, the oneness of Hashem, is completely present and completely manifest in that moment when he's ready to give up his life for God, not to commit idolatry. Similarly, when a person is careful in all the mitzvahs of Hashem, as we said, every single mitzvah is about Hashem Echad, is about the oneness of Hashem. So when a person will be adamant and will stay aligned with learning Torah, in other words, with unequivocal, with no compromise, an unequivocal commitment to Hashem's desire, the reality of Hashem is completely manifest in this person's domain, in this person's system. It's all about God, because he's completely aligned with Hashem Echad, the way Hashem Echad comes through every single mitzvah. The oneness of Hashem comes through every single mitzvah. When he will do Hashem's desire in this above-mentioned service, the inner desire, supreme desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be revealed and manifest, b'pchinas panim, which means the inward face of Hashem, v'gilui rav, and with increased measures of revelation, b'lei behester klal, and without any concealment. Because concealment, when a person experiences any level of concealment, or concealment by definition is when godliness is concealed. However, when you say every mitzvah is about Hashem Echad, the oneness of Hashem, as we mentioned, what is Hashem Echad? It's not when we say Hashem Echad, when we proclaim via the Shema Yisrael of the oneness of Hashem, it's not to say that Hashem is one and there's no two gods. That's not what we sit and protest when we say Hashem Echad. When we say Hashem Echad, it means everything is about the Achdus of Hashem. Everything is about the oneness of Hashem. Ein od milvadei. There's nothing else other than Hashem. The entire reality, my reality, my society's reality, the reality of the entire world is just one expression of the oneness of Hashem, or all part of that oneness of Hashem. So when the person fulfills Hashem's mitzvahs, which every mitzvah is just Hashem Echad, the Anechi Hashem Elikecha, coming through different channels and different types of mitzvahs, of the 613 channels, 613 chords, but each one is another demonstration of the oneness of Hashem. So when the person Chas v'Shalom doesn't align himself with Hashem's mitzvahs, he doesn't learn adequate Torah, he's not careful with Hashem's mitzvahs, maybe again in the negative, in the positive, that causes hester panim, that causes the about face, the concealment of that oneness of Hashem. Hashem is there, but in a concealed way. We spoke a few times that when we say Hashem it removes himself, as an example, the term which we find a few times in the Gemara, Hashem is removed from that area. When a person's haughty, it says Hashem cannot be in the same domain. What do you mean? Is it in a place which is devoid of God? And the answer is Hashem is truly everywhere. But it's like two people in the same, in other words, in love and relationship, or liking one with each other, with two people, has nothing to do if they're geographically in the same place. A person could be in the same room as a person, and he could have a hatred. Theoretically, right? We don't hate anybody, but theoretically, one could be in the same domain with another person in the same room, and he has a hatred to the other person. He can't look at him in the face. And conversely, a person could be across another continent, and there could be a complete, overt expression of love between those two people, because the place geographic distance does not determine the closeness of two people. The same thing when we say Hashem is behester, Hashem is in a concealed way, or Hashem is not in a particular domain, where Hashem says, I abhor that conduct, abhor haughtiness, ego, and so on. I cannot be in the same domain. It doesn't mean that Hashem goes anywhere. It means Hashem turns about face. Hashem is not overtly there. Hashem is not in the way He is with His face. Yoir Hashem panav elecha. It says when Hashem likes something, when Hashem appreciates something, His face shines, which means His inwardness, His panim shelo, His face is completely manifest in the place which is the batel, stands in some subservience to Hashem echad, to the oneness of Hashem, as opposed to chas v'shalom when you say Hashem is not there, einani v'hu yicholim ladur, I cannot live in the same, I cannot be in the same domain, or as the term over here behester panim, which means Hashem is there, but Hashem is really not there because it's concealed. He's obviously there's nothing else than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but that place you cannot say that place is in God's spirit to say Hashem feels comfortable there, not at all. If chas v'shalom it's a situation, a system that does not align with itself with Torah mitzvahs. Because the whole entire Torah and all the mitzvahs are ultimately about that Hashem echad, the oneness of Hashem, Aneich Hashem Lekecha. As opposed to when a person does align himself with Aneich Hashem Lekecha, the way it comes through all the mitzvahs, the way it becomes extends itself by all the mitzvahs. In other words, he's careful in the mitzvahs, in Leisa, so what Hashem says not to do, he will till the end make sure not to violate, not in action, not in speech, not in thought. And when it comes to mitzvahs, say every mitzvah he'll do it, and he'll do it with the ultimate hidur, the way Hashem wants a yid to perform mitzvahs. So when he does that, he is the yid, he is a Jew that the entire inwardness, panim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, extends in a complete state of revelation and manifestation. He says v'gilui rav, in a great measure of revelation, because it's all Hashem echad in a most complete, manifest and overt manifestation. V'lei behester klal. And when there's no cover up of it in the supreme desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then there is nothing which is virtually separated, nothing can be truly separated rather than and stand as something, as a yesh, something which is presents itself as an independent entity in the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if you're talking about Hashem Echad revealed and manifest in the entire reality, so every part of reality is completely stands in complete demonstration of the oneness of Hashem. And as we said previously, that when something stands in complete subservience to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so in the end it's all about God, it's not about anything else. We said, remember the other day, it says, why does the Gemara call somebody who is a gas ruach, someone is a hahari person, as if he serves idolatry? Someone who has ego issues, egoistic, is similar. The Gemara says it's tantamount to Avodah Zarah. And why so? Because the Alter Rebbe proves that Avodah Zarah is not someone, it's a matter of complete denial of God. Avodah Zarah is a kikar le'elakad lekaya. They call God a God of gods, which means the problem is they consider themselves as a yesh, as something which is a mitzius davar, as a separate entity or an entity in the face of God. There is nothing in the face of God. In the face of God is kula kamei kilach shiv. Everything is completely and non-existent in the face of God. And when you say non-existent, it means to say it's about God's manifestation. It's not about me. And when someone is a gas ruach, he's egoistic, and he's haughty. The problem is not that he's denying the oneness of Hashem. No, he says Hashem is Hashem echad, but I am also. The moment one says I am also, that's already similar to Avodah Zarah, because that's what Avodah Zarah is. Avodah Zarah says I'm not denying Korelei Elokah. I call God, but Delakaya, he's a God of gods, which means I'm important, I have strength, and I have independence. Or even I know that God is in charge, but I exist, and even the Avodah Zarah calls itself Elakaya. That's the problem. And that's the problem of somebody like the Gemara. When the Gemara says that it's similar to Avodah Zarah because it has the same notion, it's the same idea of Avodah Zarah. It's not that I'm denying the oneness of Hashem. I could be a Frum Yid, and I could be someone who who's doing all the good stuff, but nonetheless, if I consider myself as a Yeshu Metzias, as something which is as a separate entity, or I recognize myself a little too much, that's similar to Avodah Zarah. That's not in the complete alliance with the oneness of Hashem. Hashem Echad means to say everything is part of Hashem Echad. And it doesn't mean a person has to mortify himself and completely. It means to say that whatever goes on in the person's life, because he's a Yid which observes Torah, learns Torah, and observes Hashem's mitzvos, and every mitzvah, he says, another chord, another extension of Hashem Echad, the reality of Hashem. So the reality of Hashem in pervades his whole mitzvah, his whole reality. If he's eating for godly purposes. Eating becomes an extension of Hashem Echad, of Hashem oneness. And if he's doing everything he does, his entire 24 hours is all part of an expression, an extension of the oneness of Hashem, which means Hashem stands Begilui Rav, which means with great measurement of revelation. And so when Hashem is manifest, when Hashem is the only symbol, or the only reality, the only expression of the true, in other words, when Hashem Echad stands in complete full measure of manifestation, nothing else exists. Ein Eid Milvadei. Everything is part of the Hashem Echad. And that's why it says, Ein davar nifrod klal uklal li's yesh v'davar b'fnei atzmei. And consequently, it reflects in man tiyenu nafshe elikis, his godly soul, v'chayunis, and his animal soul. Uluvushein, and their garments, which means man's thoughts, man's speech, man's action, not only of his godly soul, but even of his nefesh chayunis, even of his nefesh bahamis. Is the animal soul, the soul which gives him physical life, which invests in the blood, and nefesh habasar b'dami, like the Alter Rebbe said, this is the nefesh bahamis, the animal soul, the garments of the animal soul, including the garments of the animal soul, his thought, his speech and action, kulan means everything is miyuchades, are one, stand in complete oneness, betachlis hayichud, with the ultimate oneness and unity, beratzin ha'elyon, in the supreme desire, ve'erin tzav baruch Hu, in the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which again extends itself via every single mitzvah. Just like Anechi Hashem Elokecha, that is the Ein Sof, that is the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when a person stands in the challenge of Anechi Hashem Elokecha, when he overcomes the challenge, and he's ready to succumb, ready rather to give himself over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, despite the challenge of death, then what stands a complete manifestation is not me. I'm ready to expire means what stands a complete manifestation? The Oren Sof, the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So similarly, every mitzvah, which is part of the Nechi Hashem Lekech, when a person fulfills, learns Torah, does all the mitzvahs, everything about him, his thought, his speech, and action, again, not only of the godly soul, but even the animal soul, everything is included with the ultimate union, oneness and unity in the supreme Ratzin, the supreme desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ultimately the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, blessed be He. Now, v'yichud zeh u'lamaylu nitzchi leilam v'od. Now, because in the end of the day, if you think about such a yid, the moment, or let's say the person is a full day or a full hour, let's say, he's doing all the right things in that hour. So godliness becomes completely overtakes the entire reality of the person. So the Rebbe says, what if he interrupts? What if he interrupts and he does not something bad, but just takes an interruption, which is something which is not perfectly aligned with his mandate at that hour, from 2 to 3, let's say, and obviously we're just using an example. Sometimes a person a whole day and a whole year and a whole or 2 years or a whole month, and then there's a certain interruption. So the Alter Rebbe explains something says something very interesting, that and we're not even talking about someone who's doing something bad, but whatever he's doing is not aligned with way Hashem wants him to conduct himself. So it doesn't mean that godly or that demonstration of Hashem Echad, which the person brought about via his unique service in the hour that he served HaKadosh Baruch Hu, does that mean that after the hour it ceases to exist? It ceases the entire experience or the entire expression of Hashem Echad, the manifestation of Hashem Echad, comes to a complete stop because the person is involved in something else? The Alter Rebbe says it depends where. In the world where there's true eternity, this will never cease to exist. The yichud, this oneness, this unity, which the person brought about through his allegiance with Hashem Echad, with the oneness of Hashem, through his conduct, in his thoughts, in his speech, in his action, in his learning Torah, and his doing mitzvahs, in the world of eternity which transcends time. We know time is a creation of God. Before HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, there was no time. And it's very hard for us to perceive what does it mean there's no time? What, the clock wasn't ticking before Hashem created the world? The answer is it wasn't ticking. We cannot comprehend this notion of an idea which is transcendent of time and space, because we're part of this world which is comprised of time and space. What does it mean there was nothing there? We can't imagine nothingness. To us, nothingness is like a desert, though a desert is part of creation as well. The notion of nothingness, or the notion of something which is transcendent of time, we cannot comprehend because we're all part of this fabric of time and space. But we know that just like space is a creation, before Hashem created the world there was nothing, is no thing. Before Hashem created the world there was no time as well. And that notion, or that idea of transcendent time and place, didn't cease to exist when Hashem created the world. It exists now. Like, for example, does Hashem know what's going to be in 1,000 years from now? It's not that Hashem has dynamic eyes and he's able to look through 1 year, another year. No. God himself, the way he's for himself, by himself, transcendent of the reality of creation, today, next year, 1,000 years, it's exactly the same. Because Hashem is transcendent of time. Hashem is transcendent of place. He knows exactly what's going to be in another, because what goes on in every part of the world. Simultaneously, because the world, which is makom, it's a creation which is an inferior expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the way he's for himself, by himself, is transcendent of time and place. So this level of transcendency of time and place exists now also. When a person does the mitzvah, that yichud means is that allegiance with Hashem Echad, with that expression of Hashem Echad, the oneness of Hashem which came through the person's devotion or subservience to HaKadosh Baruch Hu via his commitment to learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, exists all the time. In the level which is transcendent of higher place, this doesn't have a beginning and an end. This yichud, this oneness, as a result, which came as a result of the person's commitment to his learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, because at a certain time he was committed and he brought about this yichud ha'elyon, in other words, this supreme unity, the supreme oneness, or based on his commitment to the Ratzon ha'elyon, based on his subservience to the Ratzon, his submission to the Ratzon ha'elyon, to the supreme desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, stands eternally, all the time. In the place of eternity, it stands eternal. Is just, where does it make a difference? Is there a beginning and an end? Is only tachas hamzman, in the place which is where there is time, or there is place. Now I'm learning Torah. If I make an interruption, and my interruption, we're not talking about someone who makes an interruption for eating as an example. If his eating is for the sake of God, for the sake of heaven, in order to gain more strength to do another mitzvah, or to help someone else, or to learn more Torah subsequent to his meal, so the meal itself is part of the service of God. And the meal itself ultimately creates this yichud, the supreme unity as well. It's when a person stops and what he does, not necessarily a bad thing, something which is completely devoid of service to God, completely devoid of service to God. So in this domain, where there exists time and place, you say, till 2 o'clock, if he's doing the right thing, then this yichud, this oneness, this Hashem Echad, was manifest not only in the domain of eternity, in the domain of which is transcendent of time and place, but even it came through even in the area, in the domain where time exists, because where there was time on the clock from 1 to 2, this person was serving God. So that yichud, that achdus Hashem, the manifestation of the oneness of Hashem, pierced through from a place from l'mayla min hazman, higher than time, and pierced through the world, the domain of time as well. And that time, from 1 to 2, it was all about the oneness of God, which was completely manifest. From 2 to 3, God forbid if he completely ceased to serve God. He didn't do anything which was aligned with Avodas Hashem. So there you could say that yichud nitzchi, that eternal, the eternal yichud, the eternal oneness which he himself accomplished when he was learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, which exists forever, exists la'olam vad in the world of eternity, came to a stop it didn't ultimately pierce through this domain where there is time, because in this domain where there is time, the person stopped learning Torah and ceased to serve Hashem. So that's the problem. But it doesn't mean that what he accomplished before, in essence, came to a complete stop. No, that is nitzchi, that is eternal, elam vad, forever. The only thing is, when he's learning Torah and doing Hashem's mitzvahs in the domain where there is Zman, so the Hashem Echad penetrated the world of Zman as well. But when he stops serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so then it didn't penetrate this world of Zman, but it still exists. That's what Alter Rebbe continues, that Yichud L'mayla Nitzchi L'Elam Vad, in essence, it's something eternal and stands forever in the world of Nitzchis, in the world of eternity. Have a great night.